We're talking about what you're talking about.
You all ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Dun, 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 dun.
This is a sham.
No. Y'all, just stop.
Get real.
Get real. I always love it. It's in my dreams. Welcome to DBL. We have Al and Lindsay here. I am Tori, and we wanted to get your take on this because we've been talking about it behind the scenes. Whenever you turn on the news, it seems like there's story after story showing just how divided America is right now. Like in Texas, I don't know if you saw this footage. This is over a drag brunch, okay, for kids, drag brunch for kids over the weekend. But armed groups from both sides showed up and faced off with each other. There's also this uproar over Hunter Biden's laptop, and now GOP senators are demanding answers of the FBI possibly burying the story. Even former President Trump is now demanding he be declared the winner of the 2020 election over the whole thing. So how divided are we really? Well, a recent poll showed that more than 40% of Americans, 40%, think a civil war is likely in the next decade. So DBL Nation, you know we go to you. We want to know what you think. Are we headed in that direction? Go to dblvote.com to weigh in so you have a voice. I just want to ask, do you think we're headed for civil war? And are we really as divided as, and I want our audience to really think back on Vietnam, JFK getting shot, RFK, MLK, the Civil War, Great Depression, things like that. Is it just the media?
Can you name one more depressing thing?
I was like, you got a good Rolodex of all.
Well, there's been some hard times. So are we that divided, or is it the media? What do you think, Lindsay?
I mean, I think it's unfathomable that we'll be in an actual civil war at this stage with this type of technology. But when you think about what could have happened on January 6th, let's say if everyone was armed and was fully prepared to kill people in the way that some terrorists have on planes and different things, then that would be totally different outcome. Mm-hmm. It would be there would be several people dead. Because when I heard the Secret Service saying they called their family on that day to say their final goodbyes, I was like, wow, they thought this was going to be a entirely worse situation. It was terrible, but they thought it was going to be like almost everyone in there dead or fighting for their life or just anything goes.
Like hand-to-hand combat.
And I think people are nervous about like people getting too crazy and wanting to combine that passion plus that mentality, and then that would leave more people dead, and then we'd be in a situation where we are like we're in ancient times for this country. But I just think that we are past that when I think about how far we've come and where we are and what people won't stand for. So when we see things that remind us of, let's say, of lynchings, when we see black people being killed for no reason, right? Those remind us of those times, but because, thank God, we have social media and we have the ability to communicate and we have the ability to at least try our very hardest to hold anyone accountable who's doing the wrongs, I think we're in a little bit better of a position than we were back in those days.
That's optimistic. What do you think about it? Are you happy? Are you salty out?
No, I'm not salty out. I'm glad Lindsay brought up January 6th, because if we were going to have a civil war, wouldn't that be the time to have had it?
Yeah, that was like the day.
A square full of extremists. They were all armed. Most of them were with heavy caliber rifles. And to my knowledge, not many AR-15s were let off. Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed trying to infiltrate, that room. But I think that kind of showed. That was our experiment. If people really wanted that smoke, that was the day to do it. But yet no one did it. And I think because there's a part of all of us that understands that if I start a civil war with you, Lindsay, well, guess what? I'm in a civil war. If I go shoot at your house, well, guess what? You're going to come shoot at my house. And I have kids, and I don't want that. I like going to Target with my kids. I don't want to go armed. I don't think anybody wants to go armed. And that's why I think that things are different when we start talking about 1863. That was a long time ago. Also, little fun fact, we're all capitalists, and civil war is not good for business. This country will not let that happen. There is no way for us to have a civil war without a Confederate army going against the Union. If we don't have those clear divided lines which people need, then there can't be a civil war. Now, what we can have is a Cold War, which I think that's where we're in.
That's what I want to ask you guys, because let's just, I'm trying to think, what does this look like? If there is a civil war, like you said, it's not the Confederacy versus the Union. There's no Mason-Dixon line. It's like neighbor versus neighbor. So is it a cold sort of guerrilla war? Will that turn it, or is this really, we're way more together than we think, and it's all media?
I think we're way more together. What do you think?
Well, I've just never been polled by any of these polls that we're always talking about. And so I know Jeff has an issue about that, and you guys said you've never been polled. So it's like, I think there's a huge portion of this country that finds themselves either adjacent to the left or adjacent to the right of the political spectrum and not on the extreme ends. And I feel like those people feel misrepresented. Those people are not interested in a civil war. Those people are interested in their day-to-day, like Al said, going to Target. And so that is the majority, I believe, of the country. Again, I haven't had a poll on this number that polled every single person here, but I've also never been included in the poll. So I don't sometimes feel like my voice is there.
Right.
And so that is just like, I don't think that everyone is so extreme and that they can't have a conversation with, let's say, someone who supported or voted for President Trump twice.
Right.
I think people can have conversations with those people and figure out the same way we were teaching people how to be anti-racist. You can have that dialogue. It doesn't mean they're starting from a place of they hate you. It means just start to have a conversation to explain why you feel so strongly about a position that they took.
I agree with that, but can I ask you something?
It's a talk show. Have at it.
Thanks. Thanks. When someone says to me, and I know it's a fringe group, I know it's an extremist, but that's what you could have said the beginning of the Confederacy was. When they say to me, the election was stolen, when I start to think of Civil War. Again, I always say you're not talking on the same reality that I'm talking about. So when I want to have that conversation with someone from the other side, it's like I can't go any further than you think red is green and I think green is red. So I don't know where to go from. If you still think the election is stolen, to me, that would be the only thing that would gather this energy up to be a patriotic American and fight against it. Does that make sense?
Well,
I don't know how to have those conversations.
Why can't they think it?
Because it's not true. Because it's a lie.
People believe do you go after flat earthers?
No, but flat earthers didn't try to take over the Capitol.
But they were unsuccessful. Like, there's a number.
Barely.
There's always going to be fringe groups that exist within any society. But you were talking about polls earlier, Lindsay. Let's talk about the polls. People are very pro-gay marriage. People are very pro-legalized marijuana. People are very pro-abortion.
Yes.
These are issues that we all can agree on for the most part.
Right.
There's going to be 30% of anything that is going to be extreme or fringe. That's part of the road. There are ditches on both sides of that road. But for the most part, the major issues we all agree on. So I think that the extremists have been elevated, one, because they were not listed as domestic terrorists. They dismantled that body when Trump came in office. These kind of extremist groups then kind of took foothold, started having places on our media. We start seeing
electing them.
Electing. We start seeing the great replacement theory, which I had heard about years ago and was laughing at, now going on prime time on Fox News. So some of these things did take hold in terms of people listening to them, but I don't think they changed a lot of minds. I think a lot of people are at Macy's like I was last night. I was talking to a woman named Lynn. She was really
Lynn.
great. We just had a great conversation. And she goes, "What do you do?" I go, "I work at a news station," because I never tell them. She goes, "Are you on air?" I was like, "I'm on a show called Daily Blast Live." And she goes, "I don't know who you are, but I've had a great time talking to you." It was so great.
And it was
just
what you wanted
It was just
to
me
be.
and her at an empty Macy's. There was closing time. I was buying some pillowcases.
Sure.
And I think that's what everybody wants to do. They want to buy their pillowcases in peace. Nobody wants to shoot out of an AR-15 to drop Lindsay off so she can go roller skating at 15 years old. People don't want that smoke. Nobody does.
Well, there are people that do, because we're seeing it. Let's take a look at the polls. We say, is America headed for another civil war? 57% of you. So a majority of you say yes. No, 43% of you. Write us in and tell us what you think that would look like, and also how we can come together more as a country, because I think that is something we all want as Americans. Coming up on DBL, our interview with the hilarious and talented Joel McHale. Plus, some major celebs came out to send off Serena Williams at the U.S. Open as she heads towards retirement. The GOAT! The GOAT!
Closed captioning provided by
Hosh.
I think it is one of those stories we're all going to be like, what?
So raised you.
Why am I right all the time?
Welcome to another week of Jeff's Mustache.
Am I going crazy?
Oh, good.
Thanks. I was thinking that people felt that Al Gore won the election. The only difference is that he stepped to the side and said, "I lost." This is the only difference.
I was living in Florida when they announced that he won. They announced it on the
Right.
radio.
And people genuinely felt like the election was stolen. He said, "Hey, everybody, like when people follow you blindly, you have to tell them this is the way it works. I abide by the law of the land. We did this fairly." And it's okay to even ask for a recount or ask something to be reviewed. A lot of people argue that Trump's requests weren't merited because they've done very specific reviews before he asked, and there was no indication that it was off by so many or so slightly percentage points they need to recount. But Either way, you're allowed to ask,
Right.
within reason, and you just have to concede when it's time to concede. That's the biggest difference.
Absolutely.
That to this minute, he still hasn't conceded. It's ridiculous.
He
To this minute,
right to this.
Yeah, to this
I
exact
think it's
minute.
fair to say to the death. He will not concede.
And that's the thing. That's why people are so riled up. So
It's a weird thing because when you start talking about elections that were, it's not stolen but shady or whatever. Obviously there's 2000 with Bush and Gore.
Remember
but
that?
even back, with Nixon and Kennedy. I mean, Nixon was doing very well, and then they went to Chicago, and some chicanery happened.
Chicanery, that's so good.
This happens on, I hate to say it, on both sides. There's always going to be issues when it comes to
Chicago at the Democratic National Convention.
1968, baby. That was a really difficult year for people.
I think difficult is putting it very mildly.
Yeah, I would agree. Kent State, 1970, U.S. soldiers were shooting our own American students on college campuses in Ohio.
Yeah, Kent State.
Is that Kent
right
State?
from my dad's house.
Damn,
Yeah,
that's so.
Kent
Remember
State.
that picture? Oh my goodness. Chicanery, great word. Welcome back. I haven't seen any of these pictures and I'm so excited. It was a star-studded and family affair. Serena Williams played her first match in her final U.S. Open tournament. Serena won the match, are we surprised, in straight sets yesterday. Her family was there to cheer her on, including her daughter Olympia, who twinned with her mom.
Aww.
Olympia also wore similar braids in her hair that Serena wore that gave me chills, when she won her first U.S. Open back in 1999. Stars were also packing the stands to see her play, like Hugh Jackman and his wife, along with Lindsey Vonn and Anthony Anderson. Vogue editor Anna Wintour was there with the glasses, spotting sitting in style. Check this out. It looked like Bill Clinton might have been getting some advice from Dr. Ruth.
No disrespect. I had no idea she was still alive.
Okay, totally fair, and also she's a great lady.
Yeah.
But there was also a case of mistaken identity in the stands involving actress Laverne Cox. Laverne reposted a tweet that identified her as Beyonce. Clearly flattered, she captioned the post, "Not me getting mistaken for Beyonce." That would be the coolest thing in the world.
That's on your vision board. Like that, wouldn't that be like, well, you're like, I'm done here. My life is
You get up and
complete.
leave. Yeah.
You're playing with house money at that point.
I think it was reasonable for people to think that Beyonce was there. We just saw the commercial that Beyonce voiced over for Serena. We've seen Serena in Beyonce's videos. And so if this is her grand closing, then we would expect everybody and their mom to be there at some point during this tournament. So that's why everybody was so hyped about seeing Beyonce, because when do you unexpectedly see Beyonce? Rarely ever.
Never.
Right? It's like all intentional, beautiful photos only. Like, so when you catch her or when she posts vacation pictures 2 months later, it's always a spectacle for like 2 days on the internet. So this was part of that spectacle, and unfortunately it wasn't. But either way, Laverne Cox is dope, and that comparison is even doper. So if I was Laverne Cox, I'd be very pleased.
I mean, I'll tell you who shouldn't be pleased is whoever Serena's opponent was that day. That's the worst, because you're walking in the line like Gladiator right before they open the gates.
She's like, I'm dead.
You
Why
remember
even show up?
that weird guy in wrestling that would always just be in the ring when the real guy who's going to win comes in? You're like, oh, this guy has no chance. He's going with his government name. This guy's over. Like,
He's like Star Trek. The guy in the red shirt always died first.
Yeah,
that
you're an
guy.
extra.
He's always that guy.
Shout out to whoever that was.
Oh, God, that's funny. And the braids, by the way, what a moment in sports history. That was
indeed.
great. Well, Chris Rock reportedly addressed the slap once again during a comedy show while on stage in Arizona. Chris said he was asked to host the Oscars next year, but he said that would be like Nicole Brown Simpson returning to the restaurant. Okay, that's not right for me, but that's okay. A reference to her murder, which happened after leaving an Italian restaurant. Chris also revealed he was asked to do a Super Bowl commercial after being slapped on the face on stage, but also refused that offer. What is an offer he couldn't refuse, Al? Sorry, I just wanted to say that.
That was good. I mean, I don't think he would have taken any offer because that offer is going to take away his narrative. Right now, he's in control of talking about what happens. If he leaves it up to Doritos, they're gonna lampoon it and make it funny
you're totally
and goofy.
right.
But like that's where his bread and butter is. Like I don't think there's ever been a comic that has had such a public incident happen and is such a skilled comedian that they can not use the phrase milk it, but he can milk this for a couple specials and like keep his name out there. But like if he dives on the opportunity immediately, I think it'll just be this big public thing. And once he makes a joke about it or let somebody else make a joke about it, it's over and we move on. So I like he's kind of holding on to the narrative there.
Yeah,
I think that we want to hear from him. It doesn't matter if it's a year from now or 10 years from now. We're going to want to hear from him. But like, strike the iron while it's hot. Is that the saying?
Yeah, I think so.
Or something like that? Okay, like
There's a
do
hot
it.
iron
Like
somewhere.
we are all like salivating. So like the top tier dollar offering is probably right now, or I guess if you wait 10 years, yeah, the top tier dollar offering is probably still going to be there. But like, why not like just do a special and a Doritos commercial? Maybe the Doritos commercial disappears if you do a special in 10 years.
Can I ask you a question? And I wanted to ask you this because I was like, why doesn't he? Like you said, and then I heard you and I thought, if he lets someone else make a joke of it, it becomes not his.
Right.
And also it sort of lessens it. Does that make any sense?
Right. He loses his leverage, and that's all life is. It's just
Yeah.
what you can leverage. And at this point, he can go into HBO, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and be like, hey, I want to do a special. And they're like, here's what we're going to pay you. And then he goes, okay. And he just takes out a red Sharpie, like Trump did with that hurricane, and put 2 more zeros at the end of it, and then say, this is what I'll do the special for. And they say, yes, sir, Mr. Rock. Is there anything else, sir? He has the leverage right now. Everybody, like Lindsay, you speak for all of us. Everybody wants to hear him speak about it, and no one wants to see it in a 30-second goofy commercial. I want to hear it talked about for an hour and like what he went through before,
Me too.
what he chooses to share, what he keeps back. But I think that's the narrative we want to see. And then after that, bring on the Doritos commercial.
Yeah.
And it's not specifically Doritos, but
I know,
we're saying
yeah. I don't
that's
wanna
usually the
focus
biggest
on
one
Doritos
during the
Because they
Super
made
Bowl.
that great Super Bowl commercial. By the way, Cool Ranch Doritos. I can't stop.
No, it's the salsa.
I can't stop.
Don't sleep on the
I
salsa
can't.
ones.
Spicy nacho.
Coming up on DBL, actor and comedian Joel McHale tells us the latest on a possible Community movie, and our interview with him is coming up next. It was a good one.
Whether you love it or hate it, pumpkin spice season is here, and people are using the flavoring in all sorts of foods and drinks. But despite its popularity, some people are still confused about what actually goes into the pumpkin spice seasoning in a pumpkin spice latte. This person on Twitter claims there isn't any pumpkin in pumpkin spice. But is that true? Let's verify. We spoke to a spice expert, a licensed dietitian and nutritionist, and spice manufacturer McCormick & Company to get to the bottom of this.
There is no pumpkin in the spice, but it's a blend of different spices that historically were used with pumpkin in pumpkin pies or pumpkin puddings.
The blend usually contains 4 to 5 other spices you probably have in your cabinet: cinnamon, ginger, cloves, nutmeg, and allspice. Spice giant McCormick & Company first introduced a commercial pumpkin pie spice to the US in 1934. The goal was to flavor pumpkin pie all in one container, rather than bakers needing to get each individual spice. So we can verify, no, pumpkin spice does not contain any pumpkin. But despite the lack of pumpkin-y goodness in pumpkin spice, both Frisch and Andrew say it's still possible the latte drink that you order may in fact contain pumpkin these days. And as it turns out, we can verify that the PSL at Starbucks has both pumpkin spice seasoning, which does not contain pumpkin, and real pumpkin. It says so right here on the drink's ingredient list. With your Verify and my very own pumpkin spice latte, I'm Ariane Till. That's not bad.
Welcome back to DBL. We hope you're ready to laugh because earlier we sat down with actor, television host, and comedian, and a little crush of mine who you love from The Soup and Community, Joel McHale. We even formed our own football team. How's that for an exclusive? Check it out. Welcome back to DBL, Joel McHale. Yeah, Joel.
Thank you. Thank you.
Joel,
Thank you.
Are you in a classroom?
Yes, this is technically a classroom. I have my own school.
Okay.
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
It's a little weird.
You and LeBron.
I think though, Joe, when you said I have my own school for a second, you were like, should I start my own school? I would go to that school. Let's just see. This open enrollment. Let me know. Text me.
That's great. Let's start a football team. We'll have like a varsity football team, just 2 guys.
There we go.
Yeah, we're gonna be called the Tiny Hats. The Tiny Hats.
All right, I got to get right to this. You're going to be in our neck of the woods, Denver, Colorado, with your boy, friend of the show, and star of Community, Ken Jeong soon. Now, we know Ken's a doctor. Let's be honest. Have you ever tried to use this to your advantage?
As we all know, Ken was thrown out of medicine because he injured so many people. And Ken is, that's what really upsets me about Ken is that he's so funny. And on top of everything else, he was a doctor for 12 years. I have no other skills other than making tiny hat jokes. And so he actually has helped a couple people on set, including the great Joe Russo of Marvel fame. He and Anthony Russo directed all the huge, Endgame and Infinity War and all
I've
that.
heard of those.
He diagnosed Joe's leg pain and saved him a trip to the hospital. So that really happened.
Whoa. Wow. Okay. All right, so let's talk Community, because Community's creator, Dan Harmon, came out to say the Community movie is not a matter of if, but when.
Yes.
So, who would you say out of the cast is most excited about this?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I was going to say if not, it's going to be when, and we've already have a timeline of 37 years, so we're very excited.
Let's sync our watches.
I'm going to say I'm going to go back to Ken. Ken is really excited because he needs the money.
He needs it. Oh man.
He is broke.
Speaking of exciting things, you're coming back as Starman for season 3 of Stargirl, and I mean, literally, you're going to come back from the dead. I've just been hearing all these rumors online that Stargirl is just the best superhero show on TV right now. I assume you agree. Can you tell us a little about it?
We're going to get you on a good.
I would completely agree. Breck Bassinger is a superstar, and she plays Stargirl, and then you got your movie star Luke Wilson and Amy Smart, and you also have the cast is super talented, created by Jeff Johns, but it is in the DC universe. And I, as you said, I come back from the dead. I mean, I must because I'm in the show this season. But I think it's one of those things where there was a lot of superhero shows and there was a lot of noise, and this one just consistently is. I think they're incredibly well told stories, and you'll see. Give it a chance and catch up on the other 2 seasons because it's a really good show. I know when I'm on a crappy show, I'll be happy to tell you.
Tell me about it.
But this one is really good.
If you right now had any superpowers, what would you say it would be?
Normally people are
Personally.
smoking pot when this question's asked. Okay.
No, I'm not high.
Wow. Okay. So I guess my power would be getting people to smoke pot. What did you say? I'm confused by the question. No, I was thinking my superpower would be to start schools and 2-man football teams instantly like that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. The tiny hats.
Yeah, probably that.
Okay. Tiny hats.
The tiny hats would be back. I would go with Starman. It would be. I would take the cosmic staff, but the tiny hat football team also very powerful.
Mazel tov. No one's going to that school, Joel. Nobody. Thank you, Joel.
How dare you? Dare you? He will beat you in the playoffs.
Thank you.
No one's going. Joel, we appreciate you. DBL Nation, make sure you check out season 3 of DC Stargirl, premiering August 31st on the CW. We will be right back. Thanks, Joel.
Watch it.
Tiny hats.
Thank you, guys.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by...
As people wait for more information from the Department of Education on what to do next to claim this loan forgiveness benefit, there's also the question of if the program could get tied up in court. The Biden administration points to something called the HEROES Act as giving them authority for the sweeping student debt cancellation program. So what is it and how is it connected with student loans? Our sources are the Higher Education Relief Opportunities for Students, or HEROES Act, the Department of Education, and the Biden administration. The HEROES Act was passed after 9/11. It allows for the forgiveness of student loan requirements during certain periods of hardship in the country, like during a war or national emergency. It became law while U.S. troops were fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan, and lawmakers agreed they should be protected from growing loan burdens. This accompanying legal opinion cites the HEROES Act as justification for the debt cancellation program, which the Biden administration has said is directed at, quote, addressing the financial harms caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The Department of Education also stood on the HEROES Act to initially pause student loan collection in 2020 during the Trump administration. However, some say this is too broad an interpretation of the HEROES Act, or even a case of presidential overreach. Members of his own party have even long questioned if this is something the president has the authority to do.
So how would a legal challenge happen? That's actually a big question here. With the way the judicial process works, someone would have to make the case that they've been personally harmed by this to have standing in court to challenge it. But it's something we know Republicans and conservative advocacy groups have already started talking about. With your Verify, I'm Abby Larico.
At some point while searching for information about the DMV or other government services, you've probably ended up on a website like this one that claims to help drivers renew their license or change their address. But it's not a real government website. Instead, people were duped into paying money for what appeared to be government services, but were instead informational websites that sold user data and charged fees for guides that contained publicly available information. The Federal Trade Commission says this site and more than 200 others like it were shams run by a company called On Point Global. Verify viewer Benjamin received this postcard that claims he's entitled to a refund from On Point Global and wants to know if it's true. So Benjamin, let's verify. Is the settlement for victims of the On Point Global scam real? Our sources are the FTC and court documents filed in the lawsuit of FTC v. On Point Global and its subsidiaries. In 2021, the FTC won a lawsuit against On Point Global, ordering the company to shut down their sites and pay out $85 million to its victims. People who were affected were sent postcards and emails with instructions on how to file a claim. So, yes, the settlement for victims of the On Point Global scam is real. Victims must make a claim by September 7th using the link on the FTC's website. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Are you skeptical of headlines and what you see on social media? We are too. The Verify newsletter helps you distinguish between true and false information by answering your questions. It provides fast facts on trending topics, spotlights major stories, and even includes a daily fun fact for all those trivia buffs out there. Get Verify's fast facts delivered every weekday to your email inbox. Go to verifythis.com/email to check it out.
Welcome back. We love sharing your comments, and thank you for writing us. John says,
John?
That's what he said?
Hey, John.
No, I just had bob cut. It was very good for my boss. Sorry. There's plenty of vitriol, that's for sure. Couple that with a poor economy and a lack of social decorum, and things got really interesting. This is, of course, about the Civil War and are we getting closer? And Rolling Trouble says Al is the voice of reason.
I saw that in the comments, too.
I wrote that. I picked it.
Oh, you're Rolling Trouble?
Yeah. That's a cool name.
We knew it. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.
It's like a band.
Rolling Trouble.
That's a good name.
It is a good name.